ladies and gentlemen, here to the Prime $1,500 3v3 Search and Destroy, of course, taking place here on January 19th. We're hopping in here toward our first quarterfinal matchup of the night between Reckless and Prime. Of course, a best of three to decide who will advance themselves into the semifinals. Of course, in this best of three rotation, we're looking at Arden Forest for map 1, London Docks for map 2, and if it comes down to it, USS Texas for map 3. Nice headshot snipe there coming out of Pure. Of course, losing his two teammates prior. Now finds himself in a spot to clutch. Probably not expecting the player to be in this left corner. Kind of an odd spot to be in. And it looks like quickly as he rounded the corner, just as fast as he will fall. It looks like James, like I said, holding an off angle. Solid offensive beginning coming in from the guys here on Reckless, as I believe this team of Reckless, we actually got to watch them play one of our prior tournaments. I know it was a Search and Destroy, and I want to say they actually won that tournament, I believe. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm almost positive that they ended up winning one of our $300 minimum 3v3 Search and Destroy tournaments, and definitely a squad to be looking out for. Actually, yeah, just from my notes here, they actually took out, I believe, Crucify and Simp out in the January 10th $300 minimum 3v3 Search and Destroy. So the squad obviously has some success in tournaments of this caliber, as Pure just happens to miss the snipe. Can't afford missing ones like that, especially onto a solid player like HollyDizz. But looking on. Offensive team, of course, does miss the snipe. Pick, however, comes in for WorldStarino. That's a new one. It's a new name I haven't heard before, but still, TMTwerk combined for at least 2 there. For much more can be accomplished from the guys on Prime, but a nice spot here from Twerk. Of course, utilizing his top position here on B-Dom as the FG42. Of course, already known prior to the recent weapon patch that obviously came about a few days ago. It was already even used on Arden Forest when it definitely was the preferred AR of choice. But now with the weapon change coming through, FG42 definitely the most dominant weapon in this game. Obviously, it's very nice to have a PPSH along with it, but WorldStarino quickly finding himself in a corner. I like this play coming in from the offensive team. Despite James dropping there, I like that play for them because they're not relying on utility to hop into the site. They're not relying on a smoke or a stun to really rely on trying to get inside of the bomb. They're kind of relying on that gun skill. They're kind of relying on trying to limit players into certain corridors. And just like that, Ryza does toss out that nade, takes out that player of Twerk, I believe. And now we find ourselves in a 1 versus 1 big round right now if you are the guys on Primed. Starting off quarterfinal like this and map 1 like this, being done 3-0 would be pretty unfortunate. Ryza trying to go for a challenge. It looks like HollyDizz in back-to-back situations, getting hit markers, but not going for the plant. Most important note to bring. They faced off 3 different times. HollyDizz has probably tagged him up with at least 2 bullets each engagement. And now with the bomb plant going forward, what Ryza is trying to do is he realizes the position. Okay, he's not going to be on the right side of the map, so he has to be in front of me. He has to be here inside of this back ruins area. Nice shot there from the PPSH, limiting HollyDizz's overall perspective. And that's a smart decision there from Ryza to immediately kind of challenge, of course, to many at home. That looks as pretty much a standard play. It's a smart option for him once he realizes the plant has gone through to immediately go for the challenge, because all he's trying to do is just kind of cut the map in half, trying to cut the area of where the final player could be lingering. And despite an early kind of dominance being shown from the guys on Reckless, they do get sought out. And thankfully for Prime, they can chalk up their first round of the board, and now only being down a round. Obviously the 2-1, 3-0 difference paying dividend, but it looks like Twerk this time getting the first kill of the round. WorldStarino still holding his backside position here inside of ruins, but does get picked off. So 2 up, 2 down, and just as quick. Pure now all by his lonesome, and the situation that he finds himself is obviously pretty awkward. Like, what do I kind of do in this spot? What can I really try to accomplish? He has no reason to really go for streaks, and really all he's trying to do is just make sure the other team isn't getting fed toward those streaks either. Back around. Yeah, TMTwerk is obviously going to be there for the pickup. And that's just, like I said, an awkward scenario for him. He's debating whether or not to kind of watch his flank. He obviously realizes that any moment TMTwerk could kind of hop down from this top B-dom position and try to go for a rush. You see James there in the kind of final bronze star, kill cam, whatever you really want to call it. James lingering through mid-map. And any moment could have been on that flank. So just his presence obviously causes a little bit of a scare. Kind of limits the positioning of that final player there for Prime. But looking on here, next offensive round. Quick rush being made here for James on the B-bomb site. Has the bomb in hand, and just like that, the quick trade. No mid-map presence being shown. WorldStarino was there, but he has nades. He has all kinds of weapons greeting him along with it. So just like that. Point number 7, like I said, WorldStarino still inside of mid-map. He has just realized that the bomb has been going down and kind of gets fooled, essentially. You see TMTwerk going for the quick challenge, the fast reaction time. Drops the second player, and now just like that, Ryza last up. Thankfully does find TMTwerk. However, still has a much more difficult task at that. 2 more enemies in his way. He can't do much more. So with that in mind, like I said, it's really been on offense. The guys from Reckless, despite either losing an offense, whatever it may be, they've continued to really dominate their way onto this B-bomb site. And essentially, it's really been for the guys on Prime who haven't had an answer. They're not really at least having a stun to toss out, which I think is probably the smartest strategy for them. I think heading into their next defensive round, of course, now an offense. But when it comes down to round number 7, I think it'd be really smart for the guys on Prime to maybe have a stun to kind of greet James at the door, to kind of greet him at the front of you, and maybe even have a stun or a smoke to kind of toss out to where the trading players would be at. But, of course, see how that does go out. Pure and Ryza both combining for 2, and just like that, the third one found. And that's just how rounds can go sometimes when it comes to 3v3s. You just kind of play for picks. You work yourself around the corner. And the FG42s, like I said, man, they're coming out to play. If you didn't already realize in Search and Destroy that they were great, you definitely do now. And it looks like that's worked, though. Making his way toward the opposite bomb site, and he's going to have 2 teammates in mid. This is a total bait right now. They're absolutely baiting, and it looks like Ryza is not fully aware that TMTwerk is even here. He makes his way through cave. He sneaks all the way through, trying to go for the plant. And like I said, this is just a beautiful bait coming in. All that HollyDizz and James were there to do was just to try to distract the enemy, whether they get killed or not. Obviously trying not to, as TMTwerk does find the second. All they were trying to do is act as a bait, and it obviously worked out very, very well. Pure going for the sneak defuse. Has 2 players in his line sight. Does find TMTwerk, but no, not going to happen. I believe that's all 3 kills found from TMTwerk, along with a 5th round. And what a way to do it. Plants, along with a hat trick. Quite literally can't get better. I mean, honestly, if you could plant and defuse the bomb in the same objective, that would be nice. But of course, like, why would you even go for your own defuse? I don't know. This is the stuff that I think about, man. I think honestly, the way that I talk about myself kind of reminds me of Bob Ross. I want to call myself the Bob Ross of casting. I think that's fair. It's kind of a calm, cool, collective atmosphere. As I try to paint the picture of what's going on in the series. Oh gosh. But the Pure does take out TMTwerk. WorldStarino drops HollyDizz. Quickly, James finding himself in an awkward position. 1v3. Give me the nade. Says catch. And has Ryza on notice. After the STG shots, rather, in the back. Trying to find him on B-Dom, but has to be aware of that position from WorldStarino could happen at any moment. He's just getting hit marker after hit marker. Got to be a really frustrating situation, but finds the head. Whips him off, and WorldStarino can't find him. Would have been a very interesting play there from James. I mean, a very well-executed potential 1v3. Did all he could to try to hop into this bomb site, but generally it was just a matter of how delayed he was. I mean, generally when you're that player sitting in B-Dom, I mean, not that you're happy with taking shots, but you're just fine just staying alive. I mean, honestly, if you're not even killing him, essentially, you're just happy that, hey, at least I'm wasting time. At least I'm kind of taking away his potential of winning this round. Of course, that is the case. 3rd round shocked up for Primed, but regardless, getting another attack toward this bomb, and honestly, when you are the guys on Prime, you can't be affording to drop for the first blood, especially when nades are coming into play. But Pure putting his foot down when it comes in around 9. It takes out 2 players quick. However, TMTwerk makes it a 1v1. Only 3 FG shots in the clip. Tries to go for the reload, and surely Ryza goes for the challenge. Surely Ryza's here, but of course not fully aware. The FG shots were out. Dolphin dives for safety and is currently secure. This 1v1 will live on. TMTwerk has full control over that B-bomb site, of course, not fully aware of such, thinking that it's a little bit too quiet. But in reality, it really is. Beautiful snowfall. Gonna be feeling very calm. Maybe very cold. He's by himself. No warmth. But I'm sure his weapon could be feeling pretty hot. I mean, literally, he's sitting at 11-4. Playing very, very well. Very fast reaction time with the FG42 does this man TMTwerk. And you're just going to see the very interesting react. I'm honestly feeling a little bit sick. I might actually throw up. Thank you, Observer. I was going to say it was just getting a little bit overkill there for TMTwerk. But regardless, he's watching every single point of view and isn't giving any opportunity for error. But Ryza coming from the side. TMTwerk just needs to stay up. He just needs to stay alive. And here comes Ryza on the challenge. Pulls out the machine pistol. Can he get it done? Can he get there? Has to go off to the races. Is he fast enough? Can he get here? And it looks like he will be. Ryza just in the nick of time will win a big 1v1 gunfight versus TMTwerk. Retakes the site and has enough time for the defuse. So 5 rounds to 4. Primed are down, but they're not out just yet. And it's heading into, what is it, the 3rd round now for Reckless on map point. Trying to get it done, despite finding the first blood. As these teams are even when it comes down, or actually, no, excuse me, it's 1 first blood in favor. I think at one point, every single player in this match had the first blood. I think TMTwerk was the guy to kind of change things up. But right now, HollyDizz taking control over that. In total, 6 first bloods toward the side of Reckless. Pure made a big impact when it came down to the last round, winning 2 gunfights. Equal things back into his team's favor, but being on offense now, a man down, things are looking pretty rough. And Pure has to go for the turn on here into James. It's not going to happen. Ryza's there for the trade, however. 1v2. TMTwerk aware of Ryza's position inside of fire. And it's a risky situation because he probably wants to go toward A, but it's just a matter of, I mean, I think his best bet probably would be to go to B as far as the overall scheme of things. Of course, it is going to get sought out inside the middle, so this game does come to a close. But generally, when you're in that 1 versus 2 spot on offense, you don't have a whole lot of time to work with. As the TMTwerk's like, wait, is that just Ryza just kind of crawling on the floor over there? Which it absolutely was. But so when you're in a situation like that, it's a matter of, do I try to go for the quick plant inside a cabin? Do I try to grab a vantage point? Because I mean, generally, when you are in that 1v2, a lot of players in a spot like that are going to kind of just sit inside a cabin, sit inside of that bomb site. But, generally, I think in the long run, I think the push kind of toward B works a little bit better. You have kind of more cover to work with. But, of course, we are obviously able to kind of be in the podcast, be able to see exactly what's kind of taking place and kind of generate strategies as far as how this map kind of went. But I think for the most part, one thing that I was really impressed with throughout a lot of this game for Reckless was their ability to kind of bully themselves into that B-bomb site, kind of making their way through middle without using utility. A lot of times I always preach about, use your smokes, use your utility, use those stuns, whatever it may be, even gas grenades, to get inside of that bomb so you can obviously get the plant down. And a lot of times, Prime was having issues, right? We talked about a number of different moments where a first blood or a nade was kind of there to greet them. And every time they'd sit on that kind of side barrel, who usually, if you're kind of watching a middle, a player will kind of sit on that side barrel area, they were getting met, right? They were getting kind of met with nades. And that's the issue where I know for Team Caliber, a thing that they always rock is they also, a lot of the time, are using, combat training or whatever it may be to kind of counter that. A lot of the times you'll kind of see them rock different divisions kind of based on those nades as well to kind of counter that strategy. So maybe when it comes into future Ardened Forest, for teams who may be watching this game versus Reckless or whatever it may be, hopefully they're making those classes kind of generated toward the fact that, hey, nades can be thrown at any moment. And that's a position where accuracy from Team Caliber likes to hold a lot of the time. And usually he's rocking armored on his class. And the reason being for that is because he's ready for those nades. He's ready for that. So the only way to really counter them essentially once that nade strategy doesn't work, is through smokes. And I'm not sure if Reckless potentially had those. So you talk about maybe the class change-ups for Prime could have been a different scenario for this game, but of course, we're obviously remains to be seen. Question will never be answered as to how that round would have went, but or the game would have went rather. But we do see 10 rounds of play. Solid performance coming in from Prime. I know at moments we saw Pure have some big two pieces. WorldStarino, WorldStarino kind of going clutch at different times, but in the end, obviously 2 rounds do make the difference. So London Dock, Search and Destroy, pretty big turnaround. I believe we're going to hop into the game. No commercial breaks necessary for this. London Docks, though, a lot different, right? We talk about the fast-paced play, the ability to obviously use the snipers when it comes down to this map there as well. You're going to be seeing quite a few pushes toward that B-bomb site, but I know in our last series, which actually took place between Now and Gangster, when they played on London Docks, it was quite a few pushes being made toward the A site. There wasn't a whole lot of snipers kind of being utilized, and I'm not sure if that was due to the kind of weapon comp changing for the snipers. Of course, the Kar 98K getting the ADS weapon kind of slowdown there, and of course the infield kind of getting that buff. So I'm not sure if people just aren't feeling as confident with the Kar 98K or if there was just a reason for the lack of snipers, but both teams in their last series who were on this exact map made a lot of pushes toward A when they realized that, hey, there's not a sniper really looking down at me. I don't have to waste a smoke to kind of get me A site. It's pretty much free. So I'm curious to see what both these teams kind of work out. It's obviously interesting to see from time to time different teams, how they match up when it comes to different maps and the strategies that they obviously do develop. But be looking out here for the guys on Reckless to play pretty much living up to their name, that exact style on offense. But of course, off the break, they will be on D for round 1. HollyDizz making his position known. He's going to hop right inside a barrel building, but Pure is ready to greet him with an FG42 to the body at the same time. WorldStarino drops Twerk, and Ryza is there for the third. All 3 players trying to rush in toward barrels. HollyDizz, of course, probably giving the call out. The fact that he didn't have a whole lot of success, that our 2 players try to change that, and it doesn't work. Did I just see a grease gun get dropped, or was that just a PPSH that I missed? I'm curious if we can look at James' perspective. Did he have the? Did he maybe have the grease gun? Yeah, he does. Okay, so that was correct. I'm not gonna lie. I think I should get a little bit of applause to actually see that the grease gun was dropped in the game. But for those who aren't aware, the grease gun actually did get a little bit of an additive toward it. Did get some positives when it came down to the weapon tuning. I believe got a recoil adjustment to obviously give the players some more control, and also got an ADS transition time buff there too. So definitely a lot more dominant when it comes down to things. As James, of course, not getting into too much action off the start, but I believe is there for the pickup at the end. I'm not sure if he just received a call out at the perfect time possible, or really was the case, but Twerk will finish off with this kill in the end as James was just waiting to put that grease gun to work, but unfortunately was just a little bit too late. So very curious to see how the grease gun obviously comes into competitive. I know Classic actually from Team Envious has been known, and I've actually been seeing quite a few people mentioning on Twitter that he's been pretty dominant with that weapon when it comes into scrims and playing in kind of like 8s and whatnot. So curious if that has a factor. Maybe it could come into competitive. I know a lot of people are very happy with their PPSH, don't really want to kind of give that sub away, but I personally would love to see another kind of sub enter the field. I know when we talk about assault rifles, I mean, you name it, STG, BAR, STG, whatever you really want to name it. I mean, all of them have been viable at some point. And the PPSH has kind of like been the only go-to gun through a lot of this game. But looking on, 1v3 scenario there coming in from the last player on Prime, who really isn't able to accomplish much. As like I said, it's just really the dominance being shown from the guys on Reckless, whether it's on offense or defense. They've been really controlling water side very, very well. As like I said, a back-to-back kill cams, HollyDizz in this one, and I believe it was Twerk in the other. Kind of same position, both taking out players. And if we can actually stand by with James here, I really just want to see. Oh, of course, he switches up. I was going to say, let's see what he can do with the grease gun. Unfortunately, it does change off of it. Darn it, James. He's going to do that. But still, I want to see it be put in use. I want to see how good it is. And James, of course, very talented search and destroy player. I believe it's kind of rumored, but I'm almost positive that's Stoner, previous search and destroy kind of star. But still very talented regardless of how this round plays out. But Pure, yet again, holding with this FG on these top stairs. We saw him kind of having a very solid performance when it came down to that U position on Arn Forest. A lot of time he's able to kind of combine kills, kind of has a quick ADS, be kind of quick on his feet with the callouts. He's obviously 4-2, most kills in the lobby for the time. is back on offense. It looks like Bomb being rotated toward A. This is what I'm talking about, right? With the lack of snipers, maybe the FG kind of being brought back out, more players kind of roaming with ARs. Maybe you want to kind of roam toward A a little bit more. We've seen quite a bit of pressure on offense come from these teams. But got to be wary of that flank. It looks like one inside of barrels is Ryza, but he could let someone sneak behind him, but thankfully he turns around at the perfect time possible, dropping James for the first blood, but quickly it is traded out as TMTwerk drops Pure. WorldStarino trying to pick off TMTwerk, and will do exactly that. A very risky gunfight. The Dolphin Knife nearly came in. But now HollyDizz finding himself in a position to clutch. Notice, grip, and I believe that's long barrel as those attachments. A lot of players have been kind of getting away from the quick draw, whether it's on ARs or SMGs. I believe at Dallas it was kind of like TK, along with a few other teams, just TK most notably. We're kind of rocking the FG, kind of rocking, whatever it may be, PPSHs without the quick draw attachment. I know Kenny was kind of one of the first guys to just kind of solidly use grip and long barrels, so not sure, obviously when it comes to certain players' play styles, what they prefer, but it looks like James, yet again, swaps from the grease gun to the PPSH, and it's just making me more and more sad. Yet 0-3, maybe the reason why he's not trying those interesting strats. Wouldn't surprise me if that's the case, but regardless. 3 rounds to 2 in favor of Prime. Of course, they're down 0-1 right now in the series, needing to make a victory happen on London Docks if they want to continue their tournament lives, but James somehow misses a few shots. I'm not exactly sure where those bullets went, but does pick up a bar to have in his back pocket, for good sake. And right now, if you're TMTwerk and James, you're not really, obviously sad by the placement of the bomb. I mean, it's obviously sitting inside a closet at any moment. Either one of them could grab it and kind of get a certain position, but what they have to be aware of is player number 1, Ryza, is on the flank, making his way through underground, and is really just trying to gain some information. I'm not sure if he spots anyone out based on where player number 6 is looking to work. I like to imagine that he probably spotted them as they're going to go for the challenge, but right around the stairs, James, fully aware of it, but ends up falling. TMTwerk will be there for the pickup. But with 24 seconds left, it's not at all an odd case to see Pure at least providing some knowledge, but I believe that one might have almost stuck him. I thought he had made it through. I thought he had got a successful Kobe. People are saying Curry now. No, it's Kobe. It will always be Kobe. But TMTwerk does miss the nade. Well, he doesn't really miss it, but he doesn't get the kill, obviously. Now where does Pure start to go to? Minus spot the shadow. Now spots the player model. TMTwerk, where do you go? And Pure is fully aware of exactly what the strategy is. Spots him go back up top, but this is where the awkward scenario comes in. As TMTwerk watches flank. Based off not seeing anyone in from the front, can he find the kill? It just turns right at the worst time possible. Both players not spotting each other, but it will be Pure who does get the COD timing after missing him in those top boxes, entering inside of 10. TMTwerk gets a little bit too risky, hopping outside through middle streets, or side street rather. Does get picked off. It's rather unfortunate mishap coming in there from TMTwerk. Kind of played the position well, but really, it was Pure who had a pretty decent line sight throughout the entire round. And really was kind of on the hunt for him. He knew exactly where TMTwerk was going to be going. He knew he was going to be going to those lower docks. Kind of had a good position, good idea as to where he was going. And maybe the reason why we see Pure know that is maybe he was an SMG prior. Maybe he's known to kind of rock the PPSH from time to time. But everyone's kind of swapping back to the FG42. Everyone knows it's good. But it looks like Ryza, last player up, was watching on the flank. Player number 5, HollyDizz, is going to be here for the cleanup in the end. But solid round. Also comes through for Reckless. A much-needed round when it comes to London Docks. They can't really be put to the task of having the other team get to the 5th round when you're only stuck at round 3. So but as far as outliers right now when it comes down to this current match, pretty solid performance coming in from just about everyone, but unfortunately James not really having the best of games. 2-5 at the moment. As you see, the smoke actually get tossed out from HollyDizz. They're definitely trying to limit the line sights, but you keep in mind though, the guy through middle isn't really going to be put to an issue whatsoever. The guy who's in middle statue isn't going to have a problem. And so it's kind of an awkward round that we see come through for Reckless. I'm not sure if it was just a miss smoke or what really was the case. But I think they're tossing at the smoke to kind of be used as a bait as TMTwerk just kind of goes flying to the sky there. But they kind of toss at the smoke as a bait, it looked to be like. But kind of based on the positioning, I'm pretty sure that Prime knew the entire time what was kind of taking place. Then TMTwerk hops on the bomb after a teammate ends up falling. It was just kind of an oddly positioned round, and obviously one that propels the guys from Prime to their 5th. As USS Texas for map 3, definitely looking a lot more likely. It's very similar to the first round. This time, though, it's HollyDizz who gets the advantage. Pure's here to greet him with an FG42, but HollyDizz putting his foot down, trying to win this round, and James with a huge turn-on. Don't tell me that was on the WorldStarino. Was it? It was. Oh, living up to his name. Unfortunately, the wrong end of it. Nice shot, though, coming in from James. F612. I think he has a camel with a bow tie in his emblem. That's sick. That's really cool. But 10th round forced here from the guys on Reckless. Desperately trying to get to the round 11. Desperately, of course, trying to close out this series as fast as possible to get themselves into the semifinals. Trying to book their ticket. And being on offense now, we see a similar smoke get tossed out. Keep in mind the player who could be lingering in back B is only player number 2. That's WorldStarino, and he's not even checking over there. And you look at player number 1, Ryza. Does get picked off. Why? Because there's no one watching through mid-street. The smoke comes in, and nobody is watching it. James comes through the flank, I believe through mid-statue, and drops him. And so WorldStarino, the only guy who was holding on B, is late to the party. He realizes that, oh, one of my teammates dropped. Okay. Well, my second teammate dropped. I should probably rotate. And then obviously ends up getting taken out. But, I mean, generally, Reckless, they're kind of showing their strats, right? They've done the exact same thing in back-to-back offensive rounds. And the prior one, it didn't work out in any way. Like, they literally toss out a smoke, they kind of get picked off, they make their way toward the B-bomb site. So generally, if you're in the back of Prime's mind, you got to be thinking that, hey, this didn't work for them very well last round, so I doubt they're going to be making their way toward B. Yet, one player is allowed to literally walk through water, side street, flank the guy inside of middle 10, and just kill him easily. So I'm not sure if that's the issue of just kind of playing threes and having that one spot where normally that fourth player is kind of giving a call out, but regardless, we see overtime. Can the guys from Primed force a map 3? That first blood definitely increases their chances, but being an offense can be a difficulty, as it looks like the bomb plants are not fully in commitment of wanting to go toward any other site but A. Keeping in mind, player number 7's position right now is James. Could make a play. Both these guys still up. Of course, TMTwerk and James. Could be making a play. The number 6 spots the bomb planter up, but WorldStarino was there for the kill. Quickly, James, 1 versus 3. Have to watch all of his positions. Too many line sights to try and hold. However, it's not going to go through. And just like that, a overtime will go the way of Primed. As just like that, this series, this quarterfinal, will see a third map. That one going to be on USS Texas. Very interested to see how this map kind of plays out, because this map, of course, is going to be based a lot off of not just sniper play, but also utility. How are you going to get onto those bomb sites? I think the PPSH is definitely going to kind of come to play, and we've already talked about the FG kind of performance. I think both these teams have felt pretty confident on both of these maps, Arden Forest and London Docks with the FG. I know Pure, of course, from Primed, has been having no issue rocking the FG42, even in a close quarter map like London Docks. But when it comes down to USS Texas, right, the FG is obviously useful, but kind of at a long range, it's definitely not the weapon of choice. I'm curious to see what kind of teams bring out a sniper. I know in past, and I know kind of heading into World War II, when everyone was kind of playing Ghosts, I was able to cast over TMTwerk and HollyDizz quite a bit, and I know both of them kind of tended to use the sniper rifle out quite often. I believe it was HollyDizz who kind of rocked it whenever him and TMTwerk would team up. If I remember correctly, of course, it's been like a few months and whatnot, but I believe we're going to see HollyDizz probably from Reckless pull out the sniper. If not, ladies and gentlemen, of course, due to the Prime $1,500 3v3 search and destroy, of course, taking place here on January 19th. Hopping in here toward our final map of our current quarterfinal, taking place between Reckless and Prime. These two have dueled out so far on Arden Forest and London Docks. It was Reckless who took Arden Forest 6-4, and Prime who just won a overtime victory, of course, 6-5 there on London Docks as well. Of course, hopping in here toward the offensive team, it will be the guys from Reckless finding 2 early picks, and it looks like Ryza staring into smoke. Quite literally a kind of scenario where he's pretty much blind as to what just happened to his teammates. Spots maybe the head of HollyDizz onto the A side, but regardless, pretty awkward spot for him to be in. Thankfully does have the element of surprise to take out TMTwerk. And TMTwerk from behind, no pun intended, does give a call out to the team as to where Ryza is now. Doesn't have any stun, has any utility to really use when it comes down to it. So, like I said, when it came down to Arden Forest, I was talking about how well that Rekkles was doing when it came down to offensive execution without using smokes, right? I believe they ended up kind of using one toward the B site, I believe, because I don't think that we would see Prime kind of toss a smoke and whatnot, because Ryza was like basically staring at one. I think they probably use it as a bait, but generally when it comes down to just hopping on a site, especially one like A, it's pretty difficult. So I'm not sure if the guys from Prime have a dedicated sniper, and maybe the guys from Rekkles might know that, so they feel a lot more kind of at ease when it comes to it. But like I said, curious to see what the future strategy holds on offense. Technically, really for the guys on defense for Rekkles, but now back with the objective in their hands, tossing out that stun. Of course, that close quarter stun. They're a little bit late to the party when it comes to the midship. HollyDizz welcomes them with a few shots with the PPSH, but it's Pure who gets the advantage just like that. James and TMTwerk combined for 2. Of course, you see that kill feed. TMTwerk rocking up the sniper rifle like I was mentioning. Be very solid with that weapon, but I believe has his secondary out, gets caught off guard. It needs to get a better line of sight. But Ryza and TMTwerk, the LMSs right now, as Cordon used to say, last man standing, but just like that, the snipe through the wall. The wall bang comes in from TMTwerk as he's just like, yep, all right. The jig is up, Ryza. I know exactly where you are, my friend. Big kill coming in there from the guys on Rekkles. TMTwerk, I believe, had, what was it, in their victory on Arden Forest, I think, had 12 kills. And can definitely be a major performer when it comes down to things. And you notice there the duelist PO8s. I was talking about the strategy that Blasphel was actually using in a Search and Destroy tournament a few nights ago. Very, very solid weapon. Of course, you're going to see him rock the FG just once he realizes that no one is up top. The bait smoke over toward B definitely has the guys on Prime biting. James come through middle to try to meet Pure with some shots, but the Mr. Pure, guys, you can't sleep on him. You really can't. You can't allow him to have any easy fight on you because he's going to take you down every single time. TMTwerk 1v2. Interesting positions, of course, you're on the on USS Texas, but TMTwerk looking to spot out one. 1v1 versus Ryza. Of course, you see him toss out the nade. Has no idea where Ryza is lingering, so he does have the element of surprise. That's the great thing about being in a 1v2 after your teammate falls, is the factor that, or being in a 1v1 after your teammate falls, is the fact that you do have somewhat of information, and information that Ryza will take to grab round number 3. Of course, their first round so far in this map. It's a big win, regardless. Because like I said, kind of coming into that round, we noticed the fact of TMTwerk using that duelist combat turning, allowing him to obviously rock double secondaries. For those who aren't aware, that was a strat. Maybe to kind of refresh your guys' memories, if you noticed, actually it was on St. Marie Dumont, one of the first maps I think that United played. Clayster had actually rocked the double PO8s, the Akimbo PO8s, and really was dominating on him. He's literally using it on a hard point versus in pool play, and that's a very risky strat to kind of use. He was talking about how he's kind of been holding on to that strategy for a while, and obviously paid dividend. It definitely worked. So you're definitely going to see some teams, some players rock that in Search and Destroy. And if you don't want to use Scope and Conspicuous Hunker, Duelist is a pretty good option as well. But it looks like off the start, Pure finding his first blood of the game. Granted, it does drop to James, but it looks like WorldStarino pulling out the sniper. It's kind of difficult to kind of realize what snipers they are when you look at the variants, but this is a Car 98K. The Thrive, of course, the PPSH for WorldStarino does grab the PPSH off the ground as well, so has decent weapon selection, is on defense. All right, I think I just said that, but regardless, also has the advantage of not having to pick up that bomb. So in a pretty good spot. He's going to realize exactly where WorldStarino is. Dropping him. Here's James continuing with that classy emblem. The camel. With the bow tie. Nothing else. You didn't see anything else. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. But out of 4 rounds, of course, it is the guys on Reckless with a solid advantage right now. And honestly, if they win this round number 5, they're in a very good spot. And the reason why I bring this up is because of how successful they have been on offense throughout, not just this map, but throughout this entire series on their execution. They've been baiting out smokes toward B. It looks like smokes tossed out yet again. If we can actually go to the above point of view, I'm curious what smoke they tossed that on. It looks like that might have been B. So yet again, trying to bait out the enemy, as it looks like James and Diz finding a few. It is now WorldStarino. Last up, 1v3, taking out one onto James. And keeping in mind, WorldStarino does have the sniper out, so Bob gets planted. And they've got to be knowing he's coming from this exact line side. I mean, he literally just picked off a player. So they are kind of playing for that off-site kind of rotation. WorldStarino going for the sneak defuse. Are they going to be aware of this? Can they get around the corner? HollyDizz does fire in some shots from the back, and yes, it will be a successful defensive hold coming in here from the guys on Reckless as HollyDizz finds the pickup. Also, this time a bull, actually, with the bow tie. Nothing else, like I said, but 4 rounds to 1. Big victory for the guys on Reckless. And now what's the question here for Prime? What can they do? They need to get a solid foothold when it comes down to this round. The objective would be nice, but James is there to greet him with a nade. Not a foot at the ground, but a nade at the ground. Ryza, nice challenge, but a few missed shots allows his teammate to kind of provide some control as Reckless are there for the overall team challenge. James's life gets traded, but regardless, HollyDizz is here to pick up the final 2. As I think this is the first time I've actually seen this man Pure drop in a close quarter engagement when FGs are involved. But USS Texas definitely playing much different than what we witnessed so far in this series. I mean, we talked about map 1. That goes to round 10. Map 2 goes to round 11. Based off this map 3, I mean, this one could be done in just 7 rounds of play. And on offense, Reckless has seen success. I believe that's a back smoke tossed on B, and also in the back toward A. So what we're seeing the guys from Reckless do is they're basically trying to bait out B. They're also trying to limit the sniper who's watching over A. So kind of limiting the vision is what they're trying to obviously get, as it doesn't work out in this round. But I really like that play overall. Normally you're going to see players going to toss out a smoke toward A, not really work toward anything else. But what they do is they, like I said, are tossing smoke toward B. So what that's doing is kind of keeping the enemies on primed, aware that, hey, at any moment a plant could be going down, anything could be really happening. But listen, they're not tossing in a typical smoke onto the A bomb site. They're only just tossing it out for where a sniper would typically be. Some interesting, like I said, interesting utility being rocked. It looks like off the break, having to be aware of this early push. You see HollyDizz and Co making their way in toward top control, and Pure receiving the shots. They made it into your base already, trying to set up camp. But it's Reckless who are stopping on the fire as they take out Ryza as well. Quickly, WorldStarino, the series in his hands. Can he keep his team up? Does take out TMTwerk, and now has a decent opportunity to work with this one right now. Loses the dolphin dive down the stairs. Probably hurts his chest a little bit, but wipes off the dust, and now has an opportunity to try and challenge 2 players around him. Takes out one, give me the second, but can't round the corner. Isn't able to escape, so just like that, 8 rounds is how this one does get closed out, as HollyDizz classily walks away with the final kill of this map and now of this series. So just like that, Reckless now progress themselves to the semifinals here for tonight's tournament. Of course, the Prime $1,500 3v3 Search and Destroy. Taking a look here at this final scorecard, you really notice pretty much a solid performance coming in from all 3 of these players. James, of course, finishing up 8-6. HollyDizz 7-4, and TMTwerk there 6-5. And kind of looking at the scorecard, it kind of surprised me to see that Pure only finishes off 4-7. He was kind of having a pretty strong performance when it came down to a multitude of different maps. I think Arn Forest, he plays pretty strong. I think he had like a pretty big 2-piece that kind of came on coming through you in one of the rounds. I know London Docs, he was having a pretty solid performance as well, so kind of surprised to see him only kind of finish off 4 and 7 at the bottom of the scoreboard there for his team. But
It's doomed to fail. Will you